All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, fellow Pandemonium travelers, this is Seattle Pandemonium Shutdown Day 130 by my count. And turn my air down. Maybe you can't hear it. I'm afraid it'll wash me out. I'm actually kind of surprised at the quality of the audio, given that the phone is like across the car from, it's on the dash, and then of course it sounds like I have a whole bunch of, I'm hauling a load of silverware or something in here, plus the Seattle streets are falling apart, so it's like chitty chitty bang bang when you're driving around in here. But some of you keep listening, so I guess I'll keep pumping out content for you. It doesn't take a whole lot of work. I was kind of struggling to come up with something to talk about today, though. Maybe I just wasn't following news closely enough yesterday, or I was following stories that I can't really articulate, so I'm not really going to bother. There was some kind of story with that Bari Weiss girl from New York Times. She quit and did an expose kind of hit piece about them discriminating against her for talking about being Jewish too much or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but calling them all illiberal, which is what that open letter thing from from last week was. Liberals calling out liberals for being illiberal, because just calling yourself liberal doesn't mean you actually are the good guys, okay? But I didn't really read her piece. I just saw people kind of laughing and dunking on New York Times, and this is actually a problem, though, guys. It's that, can you see Mount Rainier? Mount Rainier? Maybe you'll see it when we get up over the bridge. The New York Times is one paper of many, okay, that as an institution is supposed to have some kernel of truth to what it is that they're reporting, and then you find out that it's all skewed, and they're all basically discriminatory. They discriminate against all kinds of people for a variety of reasons, and I don't quite know what the end game really is. See it? I think you can see it. Lame. Damn. 99's blocked again. We're gonna have to come to a stop. Now again, this doesn't mean life is returning to normal. The Hillside Motel, nice way. The Hillside Motel caught fire yesterday, or rather someone set it on fire. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a tenant that had been evicted for probably not paying rent or whatever it is. But that place is just the worst. I mean, it's clearly just a flop house, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody that didn't look like they were insanely drugged out there. So I'm not surprised that somebody would intentionally start a fire in order to, I don't know, they might have just been crazy. Then again, it could have been a meth lab, because there was a lot of, there was a lot of police equipment out here. Which I guess brings me back to the perpetual topic du jour, which is defund the police or disband the police or whatever it is that we're calling it this week. Was the same problem. I feel like it's a little bit Groundhog Day, and I think I'm just repeating myself on this issue. Tomorrow in Seattle, there's going to be a pro-police demonstration in support of Seattle law enforcement. Okay? They don't want people to bring All Lives Matter signs, or Blue Lives Matter signs, because those are inflammatory or something. And it's just kind of if you're at the point you're trying to argue for law enforcement being legitimate, having a deserving of their paychecks, deserving of their position in society, deserving of admiration, but you're too afraid to show a sign that says Blue Lives Matter. I don't know, man. It feels like you've already capitulated, essentially, at a rhetorical level. But at the same time, I do understand. You get out there with some, the chick got shot for saying all lives matter in, Indianapolis or something. I mean, there was a little more to it. She didn't just say it and somebody shot her. There was an argument, and they said Black Lives Matter, and then this person said all lives matter, and so then somebody shot her, and she is dead. So it would be inflammatory, I guess, but this is, you know, this is where we're at. Like, I'll repeat myself on the issue. It's like, in terms of defunding the police, I do believe that there is a way to reprioritize our city budgets and our union contracts with, you know, the police officers' unions and whatnot, to maybe get a better societal outcome. I mean, that's really the idea, right? Is we're going to improve society by taking funds that are used for arresting people, surveilling people, and maybe beating people, arresting people, right? Sometimes killing people, and we're gonna reinvest it in the community from the ground up rather than from the top down, which is what policing often is. I can get there. I can see how it feels nice to think about. I feel like it is kind of like, yeah, okay, this is like a positive direction. It's helping, not hurting. I can get there. But the but is, people are like, we want to defund the police 100% right now. And maybe this is because I'm getting older, I'm more conservative or something. Maybe isn't this like a Hobbes versus versus what? Was the moralists, like the Leviathan or whatever? Like, what is the true nature of man, and will we come together as a community and stop criming on each other because there's no police? This is the thing. Again, we can transition, but not immediately, not overnight. Like, it's a community. Communities are collections of individual people that have lived a certain way this whole time. You don't radically change an entire community overnight. I mean, are there examples of this kind of a infusion of like capital into a community, like rapidly changing it? Because that seems kind of like gentrification in a sense. It's you know, reshaping the culture of the neighborhoods. And you know, the emphasis on public safety. Now, this is one of the things that I feel like you can get most people to agree with, is that police, while maybe they should be a responder to instances of like see, I'm going to use their language. I'm going to use the language of my oppressors. Someone in crisis. Now, this is a thing that happens in Seattle all the time. There's somebody just, they're having a psychotic episode of some kind. They're on antipsychotics. They're off antipsychotics. They need the antipsychotics, whatever. They are destroying property, threatening people, etc. Now, this makes them a potentially dangerous person, to be sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the police should show up with guns drawn, right? Oh, God. Go! Because that's not necessarily how this person doesn't need to have an armed confrontation with people who aren't really trained in, like, psychopathology, right? And, you know, at the end of the day, cops aren't even lawyers, by the way. This is one of these, it's one of those bizarre things, right? Now, like, they aren't lawyers, but they go around and enforce the law. So you think about that. That is bound to go wrong in places because, you know, they have their emphasis on something other than the law, and public safety is a matter of law enforcement, but also like community health, right? I think most people can agree that an armed police officer who's, you know, constantly engaged in potentially violent encounters doesn't need to have an itchy trigger finger when they're responding to something like, you know, someone having a psychotic event. Like, why would you expect them to be good at that? Why would you expect that to turn out well? And there's many cases of this not turning out well. So at the same time, this idea of, oh, we'll just send social workers in, and it's like, yeah, I know what you mean, I hear you, but that's not how a lot of police encounters are going to be resolved. They often have to be resolved with physical force. It's not just somebody sitting down and going over, you know, somebody's situation with them. That's just not, that's a little, it's a more than naive. This is the problem, and I think this is the problem that a lot of the refund the police type people see, which is, again, it's a conflict of potentially just ideology. Like, do you think criminals won't take advantage of a lack of police presence? I mean, on the one hand, that's kind of what we've seen all over the country for several months now. Murders are skyrocketing in major cities. Skyrocketing. Bodies just dropping, like New York City. And children getting shot. And I mean, I don't mean like teenagers at the CHOP here in Seattle. I mean like 3-year-olds, 11-year-olds, children, guys. Because people deciding to go shoot each other because there's no police presence and there's no enforcement, and they're like arresting people and then letting them go because they can't keep them in locked up, or, you know, they suspended bail and stuff like this. It's crazy. It's crazy. So there's some reality to, maybe we can fund our communities differently and improve the communities, but there's just something to, hey, defund the police entirely and disband them. It just, I can't get that. We're not there, guys. We're not there, like, as a, never mind as a country, as a species. We aren't, we're not good at this. We're not good at not criming on each other. We've gotten better. We've certainly gotten better. That's that Steven Pinker, Better Angels kind of thing. Like, there we have data that shows the world has become a safer place for everybody, basically. It might seem like it's insanely out of control because there's crazy levels of violence and warfare and stuff happening, but we haven't had a major world war in half a century, so there's that. But yeah, like, crime has been down for literally decades. Never mind your mass shootings and all these terrible things. They're not actually that common, and at the end of the day, the whole world is generally better than it used to be. So that being said, we maybe are already on a trajectory to improve, but you're not just going to do that overnight, guys. You don't just pull the plug on the police department and go, well, it'll work itself out because we're going to take all this money and build community centers or something. I can't see how that's going to actually play out that way. And the problem is, once you do it, there is a cost, and the cost is in blood, and it will be on you because you called for this reform. And I don't want to have to say I told you so, and I also don't want to have to live in a city that's going crazy, and then I have to walk around armed because there's no law enforcement, so there's no order. That's the risk, okay? And then you will have to walk around armed because there's not going to be anybody there to protect you either. Now, again, I'll take that and take matters into my own hands if I need to, but I don't want to. And you shouldn't want to either. You shouldn't need to anyway. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a need. It's not going to be, oh, I choose to concealed carry or whatever. It's going to be, no, you're going to open carry, you're going to concealed carry, everyone's going to carry. Maybe the Ancapistanis win when that happens, but ugh, I tell you guys, we gotta get this one right. We can't afford to get this one wrong. Seattle's already starting to turn into Gotham City, and we don't have no Batman. All right, it's enough for me for one day. Bye.